Delighted to be joined today by Lord Karan Bilimoria. How are you, sir?
Very well indeed. Great to see you.
Delighted to see you. Thanks so much for coming in. Let's start at the beginning. Cobra Beer, obviously now an institution. How, why, what happened?
Cobra Beer is one of those classic entrepreneurial stories. In my case, I came up with the idea while I was a student studying law at Cambridge University. And again, it's a great example of a big idea that's really simple. And an entrepreneurial idea invariably is, as a consumer, you are dissatisfied with the product or service.
Yes.
And you think you can do it differently and better. Or you're passionate about something, you hate something. And in my case, I hated fizzy lagers. I love English ale.
Yeah.
But I found I couldn't drink fizzy lager on its own. I couldn't drink fizzy lager with food, let alone with curry. And with curry, you want something cold and refreshing. But if it's cold, but fizzy, it's bloating. And I couldn't drink ale with any food. And that's when this idea developed of my own beer, which would have the smoothness of an ale, the refreshment of a lager combined to produce the most drinkable beer in the world that would be the best accompaniment to food. That's what Cobra's done. Smooth raw food.
I love that story. But when you started it, what was the reaction of people around you? Were they like, oh, it's just not a harebrained idea?
People think I was mad. I'd go into pubs and say, give me a bottle of that and give me a bottle of that, and I'd mix it on the bar and drink it, and I would experiment and try different things. And people thought I was mad.
Yeah.
And of course, then when I decided to embark on the idea, it was about 9 months to a year after I'd started in business, because it was such a big idea.
Yeah.
I was importing other products from India. And then I thought, okay, come on. Got a lucky break, got an introduction to the most successful, biggest independent brewer in India, in Bangalore, who'd never exported beer to the UK before. And I sat down and created the beer from scratch. It never existed before.
I'd love to go more into it, but I'm fast tracking us forward because I was equally fascinated to it. You're now, for a long time, you've been in the House of Lords, doing some amazing stuff. Firstly, I think my first question is that jump from being an entrepreneur business person into the establishment of the House of Lords. How was it? Was it, I suppose, intimidating, maybe the wrong word, but was it daunting in the sense of suddenly you're surrounded by process which isn't your own process?
When I joined the House of Lords in 2006, I was one of the 3 youngest peers in the House of Lords. And I didn't find it daunting.
Amazing.
I loved it from the time I joined, and I still love it today. And I think it's a great privilege to be an independent crossbench peer in the House of Lords, to be able to say what I want to, challenge government in debates, in legislation, and to be able to try and make a real difference and make a change. And I'm the only beer baron in the House of Lords.
Love that. And so that was my question, is do you feel when you're there that you are making change?
Absolutely. And I could give you example after example of how I've been able to institute change through the House of Lords. For example, the 2-year post-graduation work visa for international students. I was the one who spearheaded that with cross-party support in the House of Lords. For example, when I was president of the Confederation of British Industry, the preeminent business organisation, the CBI in the UK, I was able to, on the floor of the House of Lords, challenge government during COVID and say, bring in lateral flow tests. That'll be the best way to deal with COVID. We won't need lockdowns, have people regularly lateral flow testing. And eventually they listened. And we started using them. We ran out of them at that stage.
So what skills what skills did you bring from your business success? And then what skills do you feel you've had to develop and nurture in order to achieve what you've achieved?
To be an entrepreneur, there's one word that sums you up more than any other word, and that's guts.
Okay.
You've got to have the guts to do it in the first place.
Yeah.
But more importantly, you've got to have the guts to stick with it when others would give up. So an entrepreneurial journey is one of resilience. It's a one of perseverance. It's a one of never giving up. It's problem, solution, action. And so it's a brilliant way of dealing with crises. So when I was president of CBI, dealing with the biggest crisis globally since the Second World War with COVID, it's being an entrepreneur that helped me be an effective president. I don't think a FTSE 100 chair would have been able to deal with it the way I did. And it's because of my entrepreneurial experience that I was able to.
So, listen, I kind of, as MD of Speakers Corner, one of the things for me though is I feel like if I need to change something, I can do that. When you've got the confines of working in the in a structure as an entrepreneur, is that frustrating sometimes?
You've got the beauty of something like the House of Lords.
Yes.
You've got to appreciate 800 years of history and tradition that you're part of, but also you're part of something very dynamic. I mean, you are constantly challenging, you're constantly trying to change things, but with a structure that's pretty resilient. And I'll give you a small example.
Yeah, please.
When I made my maiden speech, I wanted to research some previous maiden speeches. And I found that a maiden speech was not marked as a maiden speech in Hansard. Hansard is the official record of Parliament. And they said, I'm sorry, that's the way it's always been. I said, but come on, you should mark a maiden speech as maiden. And I instituted that change.
Amazing.
After 800 years I was a peer, and now maiden speeches are marked as maiden in Hansard.
And so it's amazing that it says something that long still kind of, if you find the right subject, you can make the change. So let me ask, kind of just perception-wise, obviously politics is kind of going through a tricky time. Kind of, how do you perceive the wider public see politics, see the House of Lords, and is there stuff that could be done to improve that relationship?
Yes, and I think the huge positive possibility is when government and business work and interact together. And if you add the extra dimension of universities, and I've been very proud to have been a university chancellor twice now at University of Birmingham, and my roles at Oxford and Cambridge, so that academic input in our innovation, in our research and development is so powerful. We have the best universities in the world along with America. 4 out of the top 10 universities in the world are British. 17 out of the top 100 are British. And we have Nobel Prize winners. Cambridge has more than any American university. So we've got amazing capabilities. You put that together with business and with government, it's very powerful. It's when you get them not working together, you're missing a huge opportunity.
And so the obvious question is to ask, okay, where do you think we are now? But I think if there's one change or something, kind of that connection between the three parts that you'd like to see happening tomorrow, what would it be?
The most important would be for a government that would listen. For example, I've been infuriated with the way the current government has been putting up taxes. Now, nobody likes high taxes, but when you put up taxes to the highest level in over 70 years, the highest tax burden since the Second World War, that's not good for anyone. That's not good for business. That's not good for growth. That stifles growth. And I think that's wrong. So I believe that very strongly we need to have a competitive tax regime to encourage investment and to encourage growth.
So one last question for you, kind of, two last, but my first one is, as an independent lord, like how much do you feel this burden that kind of you've got to go into each debate and each discussion and you've got complete open mind, free will, whatever it was, as opposed to people who are kind of part of one side or another?
The beauty of the House of Lords, and I think it is the most effective upper house in the world, more so than the American Senate, is because we have such a broad base of depth and breadth of expertise in every field you can imagine. World experts who are surgeons, lawyers, academics, entrepreneurs, former cabinet ministers, former heads of defense service, foreign service. You have all this expertise you bring to bear on legislation, on debate, and challenging government is so powerful. And that's what I love being a part of. And being an independent crossbench here, and again, we're unique. The 20% of the House of Lords minimum have to be independent. And so we never vote in the same way or together. We do our own thing depending on the issue, depending on how we feel. And I think that's very powerful to be able to speak your own mind in an objective way is wonderful.
So my last question, taking you towards speaking, you're a busy man. You're a very successful man. You've got an amazing brand, and you kind of what you're doing in Lords is amazing. What do you get out of speaking? Why do you enjoy doing it so much? And what do you want the audience to take away?
I was very lucky. I started debating at boarding school in India at the age of 14. And I enjoyed it from the time I started public speaking at that young age. And I've carried it all the way through my Indian university, through Cambridge University, and of course now in Parliament. And what I love about speaking is being able to share my experiences, my mistakes, my learnings, because good judgment comes from experience, and experience comes from bad judgment.
Yeah,
so to share those learnings, and if I come away from a speech, and years later I meet somebody, and they say, "I just want to thank you. I was at one of your speeches, and because of you, I started my business, and this is what I'm doing now." If you make a difference to just one person in a speech, it makes it all worthwhile.
On those notes, which are literally music to my ears, Lovely chatting as always, and thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks.